That's not weird. It's like everybody should be doing that. I mean, the character is the character, not you. So
Exactly.
a lot of people don't like. I don't know. It should be for every role player, every writer should role play in the perspective of the character, not in the perspective of the writer. Which
I can let you
means,
know if Hoshikata joins Cloud, he's not going to be the perfect little shinobi there all the time. He does still intend to get the Kage Summit going, and he does intend to have it hosted in Moon still to bring some fame, I would guess, to Moon. His clan, Iceely, is still settling in that country, so.
well then, I know. Well, to bring that point of the board, I know there's a lot of coders online, on NC and elsewhere who could probably help if need be. I know, like personally myself, I work as a programmer in IBM, so given time, I can probably help out. But
I mean, a lot of people on NC know how to do that. The big trouble is that's not going to be an easy thing to code, and they're not going to get paid for it.
yeah, of course. I mean,
So we would need someone willing to do that out of the kindness of their heart.
yeah, currently right now, people in council, like you said before, like it's an unpaying job. I mean, people like council work and admin work it's pretty aggressive and harsh at some times. So
Yeah, council is it's a full-time job basically. I don't care what anyone else says. If you take up a staff position on NC, you are pretty much taking up a job. The more teams you're on, the more work you're under, obviously. And I'm only on a few teams, and I'm just getting overwhelmed by stuff sometimes. So I feel for people who are actually keeping up on the council stuff.
yeah, which is it's kind of hard because right now Cloud has an overhaul, which is not good. It's a good thing because we have a lot of overhaul. People come into Cloud, but because of the inactivity and busy work and things like that, it's kind of hard to manage all the OCRs. OCR, if people don't know, OCR is pretty much a board where we transition characters from different areas of the site, either from the village or from new characters out of the site, things like that. So
One thing I was thinking about actually asking, CJ, how goes
What's
the
up?
sand event?
Oh,
yeah.
it's going really well actually. So almost immediately from starting the event, I think we had more total activity in roughly 5 hours than we did in like an entire week previously. So that was
in other
actually
words, good.
interesting. Yeah, and then in the last week alone, there have been numerous new topics with numerous different people posting. I'm like up to my right now. I'm not kidding. I have like probably 7 or 8 topics to catch up on, and I stepped away from looking at NC yesterday, saying I was going to do a post for one individual topic, and then coming back today to find that I have like 7 or 8 ones to also jump on now. So it's going really well. I mean, like, and that's how it is. Like, conflict really gets people moving because either things are going to happen without them, or things are going to happen without them regardless. So if they don't participate, then they're just missing out. And so people are looking at this as a large opportunity for a lot of character development. And people are acting really well, but it's fun because I'm using tags called anarchy tags, which is when respective NPCs of the event invade a topic, right? And that's when things start happening. And it's funny because a lot of the NPCs, like the leadership that I'm using, that are kind of hopping around as like big face types, are showing up, and they're just kind of like observing people to just trying to see what they're doing. And it's interesting because right now we have a lot of refugees that have come in from Mist. I don't know why, but we have a handful of refugees that just came from Mist
I
to
guess they
Sand.
went from the tropical paradise to the hole in the ground.
Yeah, I don't
weird
know.
because I remember you see they talking about like if people would not people from outside the village were coming inside the event, you kind of were afraid that they might screw up the flow of things.
Well, you know what?
Is that still the case?
No, I mean, it wasn't really afraid of them interrupting the event. I didn't want them to want to participate and then be stuck in the village. Because, like I said, the event does not come to an end until the villagers figure out a way to end it itself. Otherwise, it completely change settings. I've rewritten like new descriptions for all the forms. So everything is different. All the rules have changed. It's no longer your typical village. There are no rules. Criminals are running free. They're killing people. They're looting houses, etc., etc. So everything is completely different. Shinobi are no longer the dominant force, and it's because Shinobi are basically being or basically put in a stranglehold because like if you do something directly against us, we're gonna kill thousands of people. We're gonna blow up a major building. We're gonna basically like make you regret doing that. So the issue with having outside people that don't have ties of loyalty to the village is that they'll do things with disregard to that, which is also why some of our NPCs are statted. So if they see someone that's a threat, it's because these guys are, they made this attack with the intelligence on the village, knowing people, knowing clans, knowing how people react, kind of thing. So X factors, they're kind of openly observing, and if they consider an issue, we'll remove them from the event. For instance, Mikaboshi. He's infamous as somebody who always plays the character. In the previous version, when it was more open about it, his character was an old deity that possessed a mortal form, and he was role-playing under that. Well, he's got something similar in this version. And it's just due to his knowledge and his comprehension of how things work inside the village. We had to immediately lock him up. Like, the event started, and that was, like, one of the very first things that happened. Just a new event topic popped up, and it was his character locked down. Because if he existed in this event, the event would probably crumble within a couple days. So we removed a large chunk of the village leadership, and people have to now decide how to run things. And the point I was making before is that we have a lot of refugees that came in. We have a bunch of faces. I'm allowing people to use NPCs, but the good news is we still have more PC activity than we do NPC activity, which is exciting because we have like 20 NPCs that have been added to my notoriety scales. But we still have well over the number of PCs still participating, which I think is really fun. But yeah, so we have missed refugees, we have some missing, we have some mercenaries, and then Sandies. And so we're kind of having this conflict of interest because people are like missing or mercenaries that want to help Misties that want to help the Sand Village because they've been taking care of them since they've lost their home. Or like, I want to help the village. But then Sandies are being a little xenophobic. They're like, we don't really know you. You could maybe be a part of this. Why are you trying to help us and be so willing? This is sketchy. I don't like this. So you get that internal conflict. So the people that are responsible for causing all the chaos actually don't have to do as much work because it's sort of happening amongst the villagers. So it sort of just kind of continues to perpetuate itself, and just little nudges in right directions, and the dominoes sort of fall. So overall, I'd call the start of the event a huge success. I just hope it maintains.
Now, adding to what you said, do you feel like since it's missing in and mercenaries are helping out Sand, do you feel like if the event ends, do you feel like you allow these guys to join the village, kind of like how Hoshikai is doing with Cloud?
No, if they wanted to, I actually wouldn't see why not. Because by the end of this event, you're going to actually see who had Sand's best interests at heart. Because it's the people that make the wise decisions. Because this event is very big picture. If you try to do a lot of small things but really aggressively, you're going to get instantly noticed. People are going to be watching you, and this is what happens when you hit 100 notoriety. You are removed from the event and you are put into a jail thread, where you have to roleplay with a jailer until the event ends, which again, it's going to be a long time. So people have to balance out what they do in character so their notoriety doesn't get too high and they get stuck. Which I'm really emphasizing this. So like Mikaboshi, and again, this was actually agreed out of character with Rico himself because he's transitioning to a new character. So not only would Mikaboshi have a very large threat to the event overall, but we're also giving him an opportunity to learn his new character. So we locked away Mikaboshi, 100% notoriety off the bat, and that sort of tells people, if you get to this point, this is going to happen to you. And so we're trying to make sure people don't go too far. As a matter of fact, someone who's near the top of the scale is Torano Kuro. He's the main branch Sandy. He's pretty well known amongst as being one of the most well known Sandies anyway. He started off at 85. And that's because, he's really well known. He's ultra powerful. He's a Senin. He's super loyal to Sand. And he's known to be very gung-ho. Very get into the action, run, try to get it finished sort of thing. So instantaneously, super high, actively watched, super big threat. And if he does too many things out of line, then they're going to actively take moves to take him out. Otherwise, they're kind of letting the chaos in the village do its own work. If Sand Ninja do something overtly stupid, try to do something super aggressive. Like, if they basically march in the streets to try to find something and they start a fight, well, boom, we just blew up the academy and everyone that was hiding inside of it, including all your students. Now what do you do? Because we're going to continue doing this the more you try to... So, it's really important that you do things really quietly. And I'm going to reveal this, because I've told this to people one-on-one, some things, is that the trick to this event is that you can lower your notoriety by doing less noticeable things. You can go into areas. Different areas have higher notoriety and lower notoriety. So if you go into a higher notoriety area, it gives you plus 25. So that way, you know this area is actively being watched. So if you go to the hospital, where you know a lot of Sans Ninja have actively defended the area, and they're taking any and all people that are injured into the hospital for care, because, you know, doctor, you know, that's what they do. They heal everybody because it's for the better good of everybody. But it's because it's so open and they have so many people that they're always being watched. So if you go to the hospital, you get plus 25. So if you go to one of the more chaotic areas where we have a bunch of people looting, like, rich homes. So if you go to the Desert Crown, like the upper end of Sans area, where there's a lot of criminals looting houses, killing people in the streets, stuff like that. Or if you go to the Polaire area, which is like the lower class area where all the criminals and seedy people are still thriving because that's where they lived previously with the criminals and all that. If you go there with the thousands of people that are packed into a tiny confined space, it's harder to keep track of you. So you lose 25 notoriety. And when you look at that, it takes into account when I'm looking at things as the event mod, oh, okay, so I probably wouldn't actually notice these guys. I probably would notice these guys here. And so when you're lower on the scale, and this is a tip, if any Sandies are actually listening, this is a tip, so I'm going to do this for the podcast. If you're on the lower notoriety, so you're not being observed, you can take up a different disguise. You can look, you have to completely change how you look. You can don transformation jutsu something, and then go do something that has a huge impact. And because that face hasn't been recognized, isn't being seen, isn't being watched, no notoriety gets affected. And then all you have to do is change out of that disguise later on after you've done something, change into something else, and you can continue doing all these acts, and they can't act against you because they don't know who you are. And all you have to do is continue playing with that. So the lower notoriety people are actually the really important people here.
Now, are you saying, like, they can't see you? Is that the NPCs or the PC characters? Like, does everybody abides by this rule, by this notoriety system, or is it just the NPCs?
Well, it is an out-of-character system. It is attached to everybody. Everybody has notoriety. Okay. If you were participating in this event, you have notoriety. And so certain people,
okay.
Yeah, certain people started higher due to things that maybe they were recognized in the village for. If they're already well known in the village, because like I said, these guys hate sand, but they've done their research, they did their homework, they got their intel on everybody. They basically have had people in the village for years. And so they know, they've watched things develop for the last while, and they did their research. So they have everything they know about currently active, popular Sand Shinobi. But if you were someone who wasn't doing a whole lot, was off the grid, recently was out and traveled back in, they don't know as much about you. So your notoriety is either very low or zero. A good instance of this is, he just came back to the site, is Dane. He's another really old Sandy. He just came back. And more importantly, not only has he not actually been doing anything because he hasn't been in the village, he actually wrote in his history that his character had this big event. Basically was like, I'm tired, I want to retire. And he basically vanishes off the face of the earth. He drops off the grid. He's still in sand, but he basically just hides himself completely, assumes a new identity and just doesn't want to be recognized. And he's like, in a time of great need, I will come back to help Sand. Well, hiding in the village for so long, no one recognizes him. So he's at 0. And he's super powerful. So people that are really low and that strong are basically sleepers that can completely swing the change of the event. So I'm starting to introduce mini events where it's basically, the more people participate in this thread, it's kind of better for participation, that things go better, and it sort of ripples into the later parts of the event, where we're going to start seeing how people really start to play this out well. We're still pretty early on, and things are still developing, but so far it's very well received.
That's very interesting.
One thing people are asking in the chat, and I know the answer, but I think they want to hear it from you, CJ.
Okay.
They're asking if there is any possible way they could get in the village to join the event.
No. It's completely locked down. Anyone approaching through the gates will be either beaten down or battered away. And unfortunately, it just because of how it's set up, the village gates are legitimately locked. Like, admin seal of approval stamp, no. Like, so I mean, you could honestly actively try, but the threat is that people in the village would die. Everyone in the village will die. So again, people who don't have stakes in this can completely screw this up. But that's why I had to go ahead and get that, that rubber stamp of approval to make sure that didn't happen. So unfortunately, it's kind of like an invisible wall in a video game when you're trying to continue exploring. You kind of hit one of those. So unless I come in and be like, the things you have done this far are okay, and you can get into the village without being recognized, thumbs up. But it's supposed to be super ultra hard because Sosuke, the Steward Kazakage, and 2 of his affiliates were locked outside of the village. That's why the event started. They left because they were going to handle their own business, and these guys were like, they're out of the village. This is a great time, and they snuck in and did their thing. So now those 3 people were locked outside, and so they actively have to seek a way to get inside without being recognized. And there's sort of a trap to that because the idea is they're not supposed to get in at all, like really early on, because they have ways of finding if Sosuke's entering the village. So they're supposed to figure out ways, set up plans, do things outside the village. So actively, you could reasonably create a task force outside the village at Soon's Haven, which is kind of like another large capital in Wind Country. It's the trade capital for Wind Country. That with Sosuke and them, so that way, if once you find that crack in the armor, once you've neutralized the threat inside the village, you could basically bust the doors in with this huge ninja attack force, and you can be like, "What's up? We're taking the village back," and that would be really exciting. But that would require knowledge of things going on there, or Sosuke traveling out of the country. However, he's not shown any interest in doing that, so it would be sort of tricky. But overall, getting in the village is a big no-no.
Now, I find it very fascinating. This system, this Neuroisis, is very fascinating to me because it kind of exemplifies the concept of Shinobi being ninjas and being unseen. So I mean, would it be an interesting idea to propose the Neuroisis to admin to see maybe we can impose it into the entire site, because people are very interested in the events. So why not? If this event is successful, why don't we just impose on the rest of the site?
Well,
because
Jake, I'm going to cut you off first.
You do that. Yeah.
So we might have the same answer, but I'm going to answer with why I don't think it's going to work.
Probably do.
Is because firstly, I have a list of probably 50 names, PCs, NPCs, and whole clans that have their own different notorieties, and these change per topic. And I list all of the topics that change the notoriety for good or bad. It would be hellish to try to track that for everybody. It's a lot of micromanaging. And again, if the council was dedicated enough to it, it would be okay. But overall, for this though, it's very core centric to the event. Whereas in the village, like of yourself, do you care if this person's known for doing infamous things? Like Ambu are known for doing some of the worst jobs in the village. But more importantly, they shouldn't be known for doing those jobs, kind of thing. The reason why it works so well for my event is that it's because the people responsible for inhabiting sand, taking over, are basically like an intelligence group. And they actively watch everybody. So if you're higher up in skill, they're watching you. They have agents watching you make every move that you do. In other villages, it doesn't have the same impact because you're not in this constant state of alert. But I'll let Jake finish his thought in case he has something different.
No, you pretty much covered it. I was about to say, pretty much you would have to keep track of that. Each village would have to keep track of that for everybody who is in their village at any given moment. You would have to go through their threads, read through them, determine everything that would change notoriety within those. You're looking at a job that at the moment no village council would want to do.
More importantly, wow, hang on, I just completely lost my train of thought. No, Chen, finish your thought. I'm sorry.
It's alright. Well, anyways, let me finish my thought. I know CJ has been done a amazing job in his own village, doing this notoriety system by himself. But I really feel like if we believe ourselves as a mature website, a mature RP site, we should be able to police ourselves and show, like, if, let's say, a small group of people have the time and patience to actually do the notoriety system for their group, So let's say the three individuals who RP with themselves most of the time, the people who RP with most of the time could constantly look at your RPs to see exactly how you RP and things like that, and then do the point system for you. So it's kind of like a crowdsource system where everybody's helping each other to do the system. And then that we like for instance, like it's like just like a train system. Like we train and we post all our stuff. The no area system could be subscribed in the same way, where every week we post our notoriety system, but it won't be you doing your system, but it'll be someone else will be posting your notoriety system for you.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so that's basically my thought in that.
Pretty much at that point, we're going back to an argument I gave on the last podcast, I think. The less complex that we make NC, the better. We don't want to add in more systems that are going to overcomplicate role-playing, because that's going to scare new people away.
It's not overcomplicated. I mean,
any new system is complicating things,
the current audience, I mean, people in NC is very excited about saying, and they're like the system and
they're
the
excited
event
about the event itself. They're not.
Yeah, it's the premise. It's the activity.
It's the premise.
And like I said, and a lot of people, it's because the event in itself is very threatening. People like when there's activity and there's action, and they feel like there's legitimate danger in the event, especially when their actions bring good towards it. So that way they feel good about themselves when they overcome something that could have potentially actually taken someone's life. And overall, I mean, so notoriety in itself, first of all, if you were to make it a site-wide system, you would actually have to set up guidelines as to what warrants what. And you sort of you can't do a black and white scale for that at some point, because there's just so many little things that you'd have to take into account, that it'd be up to a group mod basis to decide it. And I mean, and first of all, and again, I'm not speaking for every mod. I know a large majority of mods, though, do not actively read every single roleplay that pops up in their village. And more importantly, is that if we're going to speak to the maturity of our site, we shouldn't actually have to have a system that limits what these people are capable of. If we're going to actually be mature about it, then you can simply understand through this person's actions, it's reasonable to assume that this much is known about them, or this was done in such a way that you wouldn't know this about them. I don't think we really need something to regulate it like that. I think it's the overall content, like Jake said, that has gotten a lot of people's attention. It's that something is going on, something is exciting, something is completely changed. And like I said, and I'm largely basing this off of the previous success that was the earliest Demon Invasion event in Cloud that I was a part of with the older Cloud Council, which was composed of Masao, Rin, Arisuke, Naruto, myself, Shu, and I don't know if Kushin was on that council at the time. I think he might have been a participant. I didn't think he joined at the time. But regardless, we had like an all-star team of mods, and it made the entire event possible because everyone was like super ultra active. And like I said, I missed less than 12 hours on NC, and I have a ton of things to catch up on. So it's the ultra activity that keeps people interested. Because, again, if you can get them excited about something, they want to keep replying to it. So in order to maintain that pace, you have to keep posting, which makes it difficult. So
yeah,
that's what it comes down to. So you really need that kind of dedication in order for it to make it work. It's not the fancy systems. It's not all the artwork that I've done for it. It's the overall things are going to happen. Things are going to happen fast, and this is really cool because I get to see this, and then this happens because of this, and they see the ripple effect really quickly. I think that's like the recipe for a really good event.
What I was about to say, Shin, real quick, is what CJ was saying, though, originally is about how everyone's excited because it's about conflict and strife. Pretty much the thread that Masao modded where y'all took down Anishi, was that, correct me if I'm wrong, was that not one of the more popular things that happened in Cloud lately?
Yes, the entire Kingsley event was everybody was onto it. Not everybody. I mean, I know Joe wasn't really participating that much in it, but in general, in the entire village, people were more excited about, when Masa's going to post a mission and things like that, because there's a lot of things going on. The history, the lore is very engaging. So.
Exactly. Conflict drives things. I can't explain it any better than that.
But, it's kind of weird because on NC there's a lot of organic conflict, like Hoshikado and like the mercenaries leaking inside the village and stuff like that. There's a lot of conflict that NC already produces by itself. People just don't see it sometimes.
Yeah, but
like the Hoshikata conflict.
I mean, it's not really going anywhere either. Because, I mean, no offense to you, Jake, but conflict around a single person...
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah, it's not...
That conflict is localized.
Yeah.
It's taking place between my character, maybe a couple of other characters. I have actually done nothing to involve an entire village in a conflict right now. I'm pretty sure if I had, said village would immediately wipe me off the face of the planet.
Exactly.
But in the meantime, while they were trying to do that, the whole village would become a lot more active as well.
Yeah, I understand that. I mean, it's very hard to create organic conflict because you have to make your character be the villain or the issue, I guess.
Yeah.
So.
And it is, believe it or not, it is actually extremely hard to properly do a villain. Everyone in the past has always thought that if they wanted to be a villain on NC, they just had to go and start killing people. That's not being a villain. That's just being a murdering, psychopathic idiot. But it is very hard to properly roleplay someone who's evil because most of the time, evil people, they don't think they're evil. They might know what they're doing is evil, but they honestly usually will think that it is for the better that they do these things. Mm-hmm. Or they could just be crazy, but very few people are going to go, okay, I'm evil. The human mind usually will not let them do that. They will rationalize it in some manner.
Yeah, of course. Well, I don't know. Like currently right now, plot team. I mean, they're not really designed to do events and stuff because a lot of people complain that NC is boring. There's nothing engaging. Things like what CJ is doing is exciting, but that's like I'm not dissing you, CJ, but it's like it's a once in a while type thing. I can't assume that this type of thing will be continuous. You know.
If I stay unemployed, it totally can be.
Yes, of course. So sometimes I don't really know what
you'll have to come to Cloud and do something.
Yeah, I mean, just let's take a poll let's just take like donations from all NC. They'll help me pay my bills, and I'll just be an event coordinator for every village. Done.
I don't see that
I'll
happening.
fund that for one event.
I'll also do that.
We have people who don't want to give $5 to keep the site going. I don't see that happening.
Yeah,
well,
I mean,
because a lot of people wanted to buy the site from Shane, especially like Renzo, and a lot of people wanted to buy they want to offer a hunt. Well, yeah, let's not talk about that right now. So maybe later.
Yeah.
Let's. So I mean, going back to the plot team, like I know, I always get confused what plot team does. I mean, plot team is designed to establish setting and things like that, and not necessarily designed for site-wide events.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Well, even so, like making an event for the site is kind of hard because I know in the previous site we had like an event in regards to Sasori. I think it's called Sasori. Yeah, Sasori, where there was supposed to be something going on there, and there was a lot of NPCs going to each village, but the only village that actually participated kind of was Cloud. But even when we did that, nothing really happened. So site-wide events, I don't know how they can work in the current state of NC it is right now, but I mean, I don't know. What do you think, Jake?
Honestly, right now, site-wide events, they could happen. The trouble you mentioned with that Sasori thing, honestly, that was just... Sasori was never really that big a deal, and the person in charge didn't get that. I hate to put it like that. I remember the last site-wide event that I actually saw happening was something that was done by, I believe, Raiko, actually, where he made an NPC and just went and had the NPC try to force entry on some gates to get into fights to get people going. The big trouble you get with site-wide events is a lot of times everyone wants their own piece of the pie. This council wants to have control somewhat. That council wants to have some control. They don't want to give control entirely to another group. So you have the plot team who... plot team can sit there and make this whole event, but then they have to go and ask Sand Council, Stone Council, even Missing Council, can we do this? And if one council says no, plot team really doesn't have the ability to just ignore them. They can't go into that village then. The easiest fix for that, honestly, would just be to go ahead and tell plot, hey, get admin approval and just do the thing. But the thing they still have to do is, like right now, they can't do anything in Sand. Sand has their own event going. So
Very
plot
true.
could very well do site-wide events. It's just that they need to actually have the planning and time, and at the moment they still have to have approval from pretty much every group on the site.
No, I mean, I know. Well, I'm not. I guess NC is kind of notorious for. I mean, I guess any role-playing site moderation team can be notorious and compromised because we have our own stuff. We don't want people tampering with and things like that. So, but in the end of the day, like I know every member of the site wants to have like a site event that we can all remember.